Hello, Farid. How are you doing today?
Hello, Ahmed. I'm excellent. How are you?
I am good, thank you. So today we have with us Farid Abaoui. He is a strategist and an entrepreneur. And I'm gonna let him talk about himself because I know much stuff about him that we're gonna share today with you guys that you're gonna enjoy and have a better sense of life in a particular way. So please, Farid, let us know who is Farid.
First of all, Ahmed, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure, and thank you for creating this conversation that I really look forward to it. Uh, Maybe let's start from where I am at the moment. At the moment, I'm residing between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. I'm working on multiple projects at the same time, and we'll get into that in a moment. But basically, if I can summarize, I do a lot of strategy work for corporations as well as entrepreneurship work, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through building ventures, or whether it's through obviously helping others build their ventures, right?
Hmm.
Especially, I really like to focus on early stage startups. But that's what's keeping me busy nowadays. At the same time, I started my football coaching education because actually that needs to go through some accredited and approved certificates. I started that in France, and
Nice.
I was coaching a few teams there in France, and that's actually something that I'm really, really, really passionate about. But before all of that, I'm actually a mechanical engineer by training, and I did spend the first year of my professional career working in the engineering environment.
Yeah. Well, Farid, you haven't told me about most of those stuff, so I'm really impressed. We have like the first interaction we had, we spoke about the comfort and keeping yourself busy. So let me know what's your perspective on like staying out of discomfort and just like, keep challenging yourself always. Because as you told me, like, and as I saw that you are someone who wants to always be occupied, have something, do something, be busy, be productive. So tell me your perspective on this.
So it started from science class, physics and chemistry. I remember this concept very well, that molecules or particles will move from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure, right? So if you explode it, it's like everything in life, including ourselves as humans, we like to go from an area of high stress, high pressure, low comfort to an area of high comfort, low stress, low pressure, right? And if you look into it a bit deep, it means that we want to settle or we would want to not work as hard, right?
Hmm.
I guess that's the default work, right? It's also like they say, it's very easy to be a bad person because you just need to be nobody by default, right? But if you want to be a good person, you actually need to get up early, you need to grind, you need to do good deeds, you need to actually make them, you need to trigger them, right? So avoiding me getting into the other side, which I don't like to be on that other side, right? I like to keep myself busy. I like to keep my schedule overbooked. Maybe there is a little bit of toxicity in that, but that's what keeps me moving. I like the pressure. I like to look at my calendar and be like, yeah, I need this, I need to do that, I need to go there, I need to fly over there, right? That gives me energy. That keeps me alive,
Hmm.
and that's why I accept working on multiple things at the same time. There is like if I can like I have like these three layers of people who work, of professionals, right? So and these are people who work, okay? So layer number one are people who do one job, one function, and that's it. And they're actually very good at it, right?
Hmm.
And with all due respect, I'm just using examples, right, to approximate the idea. So, for example, let's take an accountant who works in a regular company, right? All he does is does the accountings of that company, and that's it, right? So that's layer number one. Layer number two, like I used to be before in as an engineer in capex projects, for example, somebody who works in a hedge fund, in a law company,
Hmm.
they function. The function is law. The function is capital raising. The function is engineering, but the projects differ, right? So it's a bit more exciting, right? And then on the other side, completely someone who does multiple jobs or multiple tasks or multiple functions at the same time. Like I was saying before, I used to work in a construction company, but at the same time I would coach football, right?
Hmm.
It's two different parallel worlds, right? And in between I would do some business deals as well, you know. So
Yeah.
very different environments, you know. And why this is good, and by the way, it's not for everyone, and we need everyone in the economy, right? Because I mean, while people are like dreamers like myself and out there trying everything, yeah, you need someone who's keeping the economy in shape, and you need your carpenters, and you need your lawyers, and you need your accountants, etc., right? So I think we all exist in this world, but you know, some of us do things a bit different. And why this was important for me particularly is because when I started my career, or when I was in university, I was in university not because I wanted to, right?
Hmm.
It was a bit of pressure, you know, and but ever since I graduated, the question that was very clear in my head is like, what do I want to be? Like, what's me? Like, what's my
Hmm.
calling,
Hmm.
right? And one thing I knew very easily is like I knew how to find things that I'm not made for, right? And right away, even my bosses realized this. Like, Farid should not be like a mechanical engineer who only does these calculations and hydraulics and everything. So I went into project management, and
Hmm.
that allowed me to work with people, right? Because I had good people skills, right? And so forth. So it's very important to identify what is not for you, who you are not, because that will also help you to know who you are and what you are made for, and then you go for it. But then there is a twist, Ahmed, which is a
There's
very interesting one. As you move, you'll find out, oh yeah, this is for me, this is for me, this is for me. Time will pass and be like, oh no, but actually that, no, but actually that, you know. So eventually you'll see that you are actually in a ladder that's not straight, you know, it's zigzagging, right? But sticking somewhere. And the key here is to have this, you need to have this eagerness to actually take the step forward,
hmm.
and at the same time have the patience or the trust and the faith that, you know, you're making those right decisions. And it's and I don't want to sound philosophical, to be honest, but it's something I'm experiencing personally. It's
Yeah.
like I'm in tune with my inner voice, and I have a good, you know, gut feeling, and it kind of helps me navigate. It's like a
Hmm.
compass, right? Oh yeah, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. And yeah, okay, here's good. And I will end with one example. I was offered a job that would triple my salary
Hmm.
that I used to have at some point, right? And the job was amazing, a lot of responsibilities. I was the number two in the company, um, and you know everything sounds very good, but the field of that company was something that did not resonate with me. You know, so
Hmm.
the dilemma was like, this is a lot of money. It can help me, you know, jump many months ahead. However, like, will I be able to execute within this field that's really not me? Like, it's not something that's close enough to what I'm doing. It's very different from there, right? So the decision was no eventually, you know. So opportunity cost obviously is all that money, but you know, I guess it was a good decision, and I accepted to do something that paid a bit less, but you know, it's within what I felt was the right thing to do at the moment, in
Hmm.
alignment with my inner self, I guess. So yeah, in a
You know,
nutshell.
regarding the first point you spoke about, the categories, yes, I believe strongly that everyone in life like have his own strength and weakness to hope on, to work on. And if someone is not like having this connection with themselves, as you said, like your inner voice, it can be called multiple things. People like label it as multiple things, but it is the same at the end of the day, which is you having kind of like the gut feeling, as you said, or the intuition, or the energy, or the guidance. Like it can be called many terms. I studied across multiple like cultures, multiple ways, and they call it multiple names, but it have the same function, which is kind of to guide you on what is right. It's your subconscious mind because it have more storage information than you do on like life, what you do in your life, about yourself even. Your subconscious mind have much more information about yourself than your physical consciousness, which is your mind. So the idea of like in tuning with your inner voice to like know how to deal with things and navigate through life, that's actually what people need in order to know where they fit in those three categories that you spoke about. So those three categories does exist. And each human being have a role to play, like have a role that they choose, that they feel the most comfortable in, not like as comfort, but more as like it represents me. Like I can feel that this is me, this is what I want to be. And actually, that's great that you found your own. Can you tell me, like, at what age you found your own space and how did you find it exactly?
So first of all, I agree with what you said there, Ahmed, and I mean you couldn't have explained it better. But I want to mention one thing though, because I've seen a lot of this kind of conversations where people are like, yeah, go for it, quit everything and go ahead and do your dream and everything. It's not about that, to be honest, because that's kind of taking into consideration that everyone should go ahead and become an entrepreneur. Everyone should go ahead and become a rebel, right? And that's not the truth, and it's not as easy as it is. There is a dark alley that you need to go through, right? And I did go through a dark alley myself. So I guess this happened post-COVID. Uh, I was booming in a job. It
Mm,
was like it was a good job, to be honest. It was a good position. But then post-COVID or during COVID, many things changed in
mm,
many places in the world, within companies, within people, within relationships, right? So I broke ties with those people, with that company, and then I went into this position where I was, I guess, at the very, very low, right? On many levels. And that gave me the time to test so many things. Like God knows how many business plans I wrote, God knows how many ideas I tried to execute. Like I remember one of them was like I spoke to someone who I felt like we could be good business partners. Like, okay, listen, 30 days, we'll build a business. And we went 200% in, and we did many things, right? Didn't launch, but it was through those little exercises that, brought the spark into my life, that I felt into another smooth path. I mean, smooth because the beginning was rough,
mm,
uh, in which you had a little bit of light at the end, right? And to be honest, I'll tell you, Ahmed, it was through saying yes, right? Being open-minded and saying yes, all right?
mm,
And I will give you this with an example. Um, when I was during that moment, I did work in the startup world for the first time, and it was a very interesting mandate. The vision was impressive, right? It was something related to sustainability. Perfect. So that was my first interaction with startups. Because I had said yes there and I worked there, right? With the faith that I could do something there, and I never worked in a startup environment. Suddenly I get a call. It's like, hey, listen, I think your profile is interesting to join us. Would you like to come? And then I went and I tested that. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually interesting.
mm,
Coaching startups and helping startups and everything, right? And it was not coaching startups from the perspective of a multimillionaire entrepreneur who's made it through a product, but it was through different things. So what I would do is I would actually bring the knowledge I know from corporate, the structuring your
mm,
ideas, business plans, and like doing everything that an entrepreneur needs to do besides falling in love with this product, right? But
mm,
that whole organizational skills and people skills and negotiation, everything. So that's what I brought to the table. And that was sometimes like, okay, you know what? This is actually very interesting. I like coach people. And that's also when I started to coach. I went to the football club in my town. I'm like, listen, I want to become a football coach. They're like, okay, interesting. Okay, you're a very atypical profile, but sure. They studied the situation. They called me back, like, okay, come and coach. It was difficult. I dealt with 5 years old. It was very, very, very difficult, right? But I loved it. I loved every single moment of it, right? And I'm like, you know what? This is something I want to continue doing. It added to the basket of coaching people,
mm.
interacting with people. That was it, right? And then, Ahmed, it took me back to something I used to think when I was younger,
Okay.
right? When I was much younger, back in university days, or actually, no, in high school days. I remember I found a booklet where I had written a few things. When I become the president, that was the title. When I become the president. And I used to write things about how I would like to run the country, what I would like my people to feel and everything. I found this booklet was very interesting. So then I remember that the discussion I had internally was, if money was not a problem, because that's actually a concept. They always ask you how to find your inner calling. ask yourself, if money is not an objection, is not a problem, what would you do, right? And when I answered that to myself, I'm like, I could do two things: either be a president of a country
Mm-hmm.
and be a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of being a teacher, right? Through football coaching, through mentoring of startups, right? So I guess the second one is the fulfilling one. And the president, I feel like I need to explain. I actually don't want to be or didn't want to be president because of the title or status. It's because I was so angry with the way things were being dealt with
Hmm.
in in my
That,
country. I'm like, you know what? Why isn't this, like, from the engineering point of view, like, or from the logic point of view, this should be this should be that. So I thought, okay, the one who has the most power to make the right decisions will be the president, and therefore I want to be the president to fix things. Now I don't want to be president. I don't want to run for presidency. I'm very happy with the teaching aspect of things. So yeah, I guess it was in high school when I had this realization, but it took me many years to actually go back to that internal
yeah,
discussion I had
yeah.
and execute on it.
It actually always happened. That's why I like encourage my students, my mentees to always do something, which is like just sit with yourself and recall each memory in your childhood. Just recall the memories. Like it's not that hard even. When you start just finding one photo, you can remember a scenario, you remember more scenarios. Just remember. Just start remembering things and actually like document it. I have literally now a notes that's called like my lifeline, which I documented my life years and each year what I was interested in, what I do, like it's kind of crazy and kind of like very logical, but at the same time it's very helpful because our memories are very limited. Like we can't rely on memory as a memory. We need to have kind of like a way to track things up. That way we can keep those ideas because at one day, at one time, at 1 minute, we got the message we needed of what we want to be or what we love or what we have. Because as you said, our subconscious mind, our inner guide is always kind of like tuning into the right frequencies we have. I'm not gonna go into it like as spiritual side now, but like it's always kind of directing you. But you as a human being, because you have your physical consciousness, you start resisting. And the more you resist, the more your subconscious mind will say, okay, you are not receiving my favor, I'm gonna leave you. That's why people like start becoming in the process of being happily miserable, which is like, yeah, I'm happy, but in fact, they are not happy. So actually, it's amazing. I am happy for you. I'm really happy for you that you found the thing that suits you best, the things that represents you, like represent your identity. And as you said, like I do it in that way. I tell them if you can live from now till like thousands of years or 10,000 years, what is the one thing? And you have only one thing to do. What is the one thing that you do? And like here comes to a point where that you have to do it. So what is the thing that feels you can do every day without like having to overthink or like repeat it or force it on yourself? So it's actually fascinating to find those questions, the right questions to ask yourself. So tell me more about like when you found the thing you wanted, what is the next step for yourself? Like, what is the next step you did? Now you found what you loved, but like, what was the next step for you exactly?
That's a very good question, Ahmed. And it does not just apply to that uh, objective, right? Okay, so now that you find something that you love, what's the next step, right? I
Hmm.
think in everything, okay. Let's simplify it. Let's use a topic that's actually very common. It's the beginning of the year. I'm a bit overweight. I think I need to go to the gym. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go start working out, right? Sure. Okay, let's go. So now I found that that's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. The next
Hmm.
step is actually getting up, dressing up, and going upstairs to the gym, right? Or go on the treadmill, right? So it's the action, and that's where you can draw a line, and that's where you have some people go up and some people go down, right? Is the
Hmm.
action, and the more you delay the action, the taking of the action, the least you'll be close to actually fulfilling what you wanted to achieve, right? And I had this discussion yesterday with a brilliant colleague. She was telling me, listen, we don't have time to waste when we identify something, and it's a business company, right? So what they do is they do business deals around the world in different
Hmm.
verticals. So like, listen, when we identify that this is a deal to be done and we can do it, once we identify that we can do it, immediately we set it up, we kick it off, right? So that's very important. It's very crucial. So what I did in my case, I listened, like I said, I went to I looked online. I'm like, listen, do they have like some sort of application process or anything like that? I dropped them an email. They did not reply to the email. And I went to the club. I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy who sent you an email. Oh, yeah, no, the secretary was on leave. Okay, so it's a good thing that I came. So basically, what I'm here to do is I want to coach football. I have no experience. I used to play football when I was younger. I started a professional career, but then I went through a lot of injuries and I stopped it there. That was before engineering. I went to some football academies when I was younger. So I really want to go back to this track, but now through coaching. They're like, okay, give us time, we'll think about it, and then we'll let you know. All right. So that's how things got started. And then one thing added to the other, right? So then I got my first coaching opportunity, and then I came back. This was summer. Then I came back after summer, and I was on a full time with them. And then they're like, okay, so now we actually want to sponsor you to get the certificate. And then I went ahead with it, and so forth and so forth, right? So I started by that taking one simple action. I like the compounding effect. And I think we underestimate it a lot, you know. And I think that people only look at it from the interest point of view or from the financial point of view. And actually, I do observe a lot of people doing this, you know, unfortunately. People who are capable or have the discipline, and actually, we need to applaud them, honestly. People have the discipline to do small steps every day. I know it sounds like a motivational speech, but it actually isn't. And I think people need to talk more about this and their experiences. Small, burst of energy, of effort every single day is better than once in a while having a super surge of energy. Okay, we're gonna do this, and the papers all over and 16 tabs on Google Chrome, right? That's not sustainable, right? But if you can do it, every day, in and out, in and out, in and out, you'll get your results, right? That's what I think, or that's what I'm observing is happening in my life, right? I'm maintaining a certain level of consistency in different areas, and I see how it's actually growing. And I've actually seen the opposite, Ahmed, to be honest, there's no shame in that. I've seen situations where I actually dropped the ball and I saw the consequences. It's bad. I'm not very proud of it, but now I'm looking, I'm like, every time I go back into a similar situation, I'm like, okay, remember that time when you actually dropped the ball? So let's not do it this time. Let's do it better, right?
Okay.
And then you get the results. So I don't know, maybe there is this shame or embarrassment of facing yourself, right? As if you are somebody else who's judging yourself. I don't think, listen, it's nobody's business to know whether or not you're failing or successing. However, it's very important that you don't live happily miserable, right? It's up to you. So you owe it to yourself to actually go and check what you are doing and what you're not, right? And Ahmed, to be honest, this inner conversation, I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's easy at all, right? Because it actually reminds you of how badly you're failing, and that's hurtful. That's hurtful, right? So that's why I think it's very important that at some point, people who are going through this discussion or through this journey, that they have this healing process, if you want to give it a name, like the healing process. I personally went through it. I got help to go through it. And I've been a different man ever since. I have a few names to thank about this, and it was a switch on, right? And I will end with this, Ahmed, about this point. It's one of those things that I have a reference point. Whenever I'm about to go into a dark zone, whatever I'm losing it, I have a few references in my life that I can hang on to. I'm like, yeah, but remember you went through all of this and this is what helped you. Remember the conversation you had with that person. Remember how you overcame this, right? So these references actually do help you move forward, right? And I think that's very, very helpful and important for one's life.
I mean, Farid, I want to thank you on sharing those kind of personal experiences because honestly, like having those kind of track of your life, like those, as you said, references, and not falling into the same, like, if you want to say, void again and again, it's something very important. And that's why people should keep track of their own life in a way. It will help them always. And I mean, like, the idea of you just, doing the small steps and letting it compound. There is a concept, Japanese concept called Kaizen, which is 1% better. So there is a lot of things that relate to the same point, which is just do the small action steps and let it compound, be patient, and just do it while you are excited. That's the point of life, you being excited. Now, I would love to take the last like 5 minutes of this interview and to hear about like, would you say that Farid 5 years ago would achieve the same things that Farid is achieving right now with the same old mentality, or something had to die inside of you in order for you to live right now?
It's a very interesting question, Ahmed. I'll take a second to think about that because it's a very important question, right? I think Farid back then lacked a few things, a few skills, and a few acts that Farid now has, right? And I'll name one. Now I'm very confident in my abilities. I'm very confident. Okay. Back then I was confident, but I was seeking approval, and that's bad, right? That's not always the best thing to do. Because if you don't get that approval, that will hurt you very bad. And that's actually one of the things that happened to me, right? Somebody was telling me, because I was going high places, and somebody was telling me, how come you're succeeding now? Like, how come you're getting there, right? And that was from someone that actually I wanted his approval. So that broke me, right? So this confidence, and also I would say I became a better risk taker than before.
Yeah.
I became a better risk taker. And now the stakes are higher, but I'm still taking more risks now, So I'm proud about these two things, honestly. But one thing that I like to maintain from back then was curiosity. I was always curious, and I can continue to be curious, right? And being a people's person, that's something that's also helpful, right? Being in your own bubble, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? I'm saying this because I know how difficult it is for an introvert to actually go out, and I'm an introvert myself, so I understand the struggles. I have a discussion five times before I actually have it, So, but yeah, so being outspoken, speak out, right? People's person, having the curiosity is very important, right? So those are two things that I carry from back in the days. And one thing that I also like to add, it's very important. It adds to the point you just made, Ahmed, about documentation, is gratitude. Gratitude, right? Because if you take as simple as 10 seconds at the end of the day or during the day to resonate and reflect on what's happening and be grateful about it, that's kind of documenting it as well, right? Then you just need to put it down on a piece of paper, and then you have like you're doing. It's actually amazing that you have your booklet, your notepad, right? So that's something that's been very helpful, right? And that's something I would like to continue moving forward.
Yeah, it is actually because, like, if you really observe in your life, you have countless blessings. Like, that's the point why people cut off like more blessings to come to their own life. It's because they are not paying attention to their recent blessings. And I want to like 100% relate to the points you shared. Like, you need to speak up, even if you are an introvert. Like, you can develop the ability to be an extrovert too. It's not about being an introvert. The wrong thing is to say, I am an introvert. I should stay with myself. Because I used to be introvert myself. Like 2 years ago, I used to sit kind of like not speaking to people. It's not social anxiety, but more like being an introvert. I love to spend time alone. But at the same time, I came to a point where I also love to communicate. So I needed, not I needed, but I found the balance between those two. And I started saying, okay, what I need to do in order to get what I want. And I started taking those action steps that you spoke about. Why? Having in mind that I am taking risks. So risk taking is also some like important aspect that you need to pay attention in life. And as you said, like you had before, you didn't have those skill sets, but now you do. It's because of those references you told me about. So it's all about the experiences you acquired throughout the years that led you into this point. And we go back to the one important point that you had, the most important one, which is I always, always, always hang on into, which is curiosity. You should always be curious. Like, just explore life. I want to really thank you, Farid, for sharing those valuable points with us today. And it was a pleasure having you with me today on this interview. Please, if you want to add anything, feel free to add before we end it up.
Ahmed, this conversation was phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed it. And I really wish you all the best moving forward because I know you're doing amazing things. And, you are creating opportunities and you're creating realms for other people to go through these experiences sooner than later, right? That's
Yeah,
and that's a good service that you're doing to the people, because the only point I would just add is exploring life, like you were just saying, and just being curious. The point there is to go through all of these things as soon as possible, right? So then you can find your let's say your life peace at an earlier stage, and then you
true.
just enjoy life to the fullest, right? So I'm really happy about the work that you're doing, Ahmed, and I'm proud and I'm privileged to be part of this discussion.
Thank you for your kind words, Farid. I hope you have a blessed day and definitely keep glowing and keep growing and keep taking risks as you are doing right now. Also for you guys, keep also like this track of the information you need in order to grow in life because that's what you need to have the actual curiosity to explore life and have an amazing day.